Rachel Reeves, the woman hoping to be the first female Chancellor, has given an interview to the Financial Times where she has said that Labour would seek improved UK-EU trade terms if they win the election. Despite her claims, here is Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer today insisting the party has no plans to rejoin the EU, the single market or indeed the customs union.
Our central focus and mission, if we come into government, will be on growing the economy and making sure that we're creating the wealth that this country needs. We've got brilliant skills. We've seen some of that brought here, and that will make sure that everybody is better off. Now that means investing, attracting investment, and improving our relationship with the EU. It's not about going back into the EU. We've left, we're not going back. It's not about the single market or customs union. But I think everybody would say the deal we've got is not good enough.
Joining me now to discuss this is the former Brexit negotiator under Boris Johnson, Lord Frost. Lord Frost, the deal you negotiated isn't good enough, says Keir Starmer. What's your reaction to that?
Well, of course he'll say that. It's a very good deal. It's the biggest free trade agreement in the world. Nobody else has got a zero tariff, zero quota deal with anybody. This is a standard but very broad, very deep, very effective free trade agreement.
Do you find Starmer credible as the arch-remainer of yesteryear when he says that we would not rejoin the EU, the single market or the customs union should Labour win power on July the 5th?
Well, I think he wants to get as close to those things as possible. Possibly he won't, with a stroke of the pen, join the single market on day one, but he's already admitted in the manifesto that he wants a food and agriculture veterinary deal, which will require subordination to EU laws. We heard from Rachel Reeves this morning that they wanted a chemicals deal. That's a big industry in this country, not mentioned in the manifesto at all. And this is what we can expect to see. Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, all the people around them, they think we ought to be part of the EU and they can't stop themselves floating new ideas.
Although they know that it wouldn't be politically expedient to reopen that can of worms. When Rachel Reeves says that the Tories are fixated on regulatory divergence, she says, I don't think anyone voted Leave because they were not happy that chemicals regulations were the same across Europe. When my constituency voted Leave, it was purely because of immigration.
I mean, it's a silly argument because quite possibly, you couldn't find somebody who voted on those grounds, but that's not the point. What people voted about was, do you want your laws set in this country or in another country? And that was what was at stake, whether it was immigration, whether it was chemicals, whether it was anything else. And we had a clear answer to that question. Rachel Reeves, Keir Starmer, others are quite happy with having our laws in part set in other countries, and that's the problem.
OK, let's bring Mike Galsworthy into the conversation. He's the chair of the European Movement UK, and you can also address his points, David. Mike, I mean, you must be a bit disappointed that Starmer, the arch-remainer, isn't going further. He doesn't want to rejoin the EU. He doesn't want to rejoin the single market or the customs union. So what should Remainers do? Support the Liberal Democrats, who have at least had the courage to admit that they'd like to be back in Europe?
Good evening, Camilla. Hi, David. Well, European Movement UK is a cross-party organisation, so we support pro-Europeanism in all the parties, and it's there in all the parties. In fact, there's a lot of it now in the Conservative youth because, like with, for example, this chemical situation, it's natural, it's Conservative to be pro-business and to get government out of the way of business. And so if business says, these set of rules are good for us, we like them, we want to work with them, and we don't want to see them duplicated, the wheel reinvented, so that we have to fill in forms twice over, costing the industry £2 billion, then a sensible government would just listen.
OK, but aren't you disappointed that the Labour leader who railed against Brexit for all those years that he served as shadow Brexit secretary is now reneging on what he once believed in the interests of political expediency?
We think he should be going further. Of course we do. I mean, our organisation thinks we should be fully back in the EU as members. Like you and I had that conversation last time.
Yes.
Everything in life is an experiment. You try it out, you see if you like it. That goes across all of politics. And people have the power to tell their governments, we want this now, we want that now. And it also goes to different sectors. So if you've got, for example, your farming industry absolutely losing it at the moment over their trade problems, and you've got the same thing in the chemicals industry, and you've got problems in, for example, pharmaceuticals industries, then every government, it's the responsible thing for them to do to say, right, how can we get out of your way and help you function better? And if they say, well, that set of rules over there, we don't have any problems with and never did, can we just go with those instead of duplicates that you're making out of some ideology to be different? Then a sensible government should say, yeah, go on then, of course, we're here to help you.
OK, let's put the debate that we had last time, Mike, to David Frost, because you were arguing that we should have another referendum, that it wasn't a lifetime vote, that actually it's 8 years on, people have regretted it, even Brexiteers have had regrets, so why don't we have another poll?
Not all.
Some, not all,
OK.
OK.
Be that patronising, but you
would
have to look at what the public as a whole think.
OK, I'm just summarising that debate because I don't want to engender another pile on X, Mike, despite us having a nice, feasible chat.
It was nice. I was being playful at the time.
Yeah, thank you. It engendered a load of abuse my way from a load of disgruntled, follow-back pro-Europeans. I mean, I'm only expressing an opinion. Other opinions are available. But let's ask David Frost.
If I see that again, I will go in and tidy it up because I don't like that on X from any side. And it also doesn't do our country any favours of people throwing insults. And I did see some of those. So
thank you.
I'll have your back
David Frost. Thank you, mate. David Frost, a second referendum. People are having regrets. The government's mishandled this. What do you think? Should we have another vote?
No, obviously not. This is a settled vote, and we are hardly at the beginning of our life as a country outside the European Union. We've only been outside it for 4 years, and as I've kept saying, the government has done a lot less than it really should have to start getting the benefits, reforming, changing, setting us off on a different path. But we've got our new trade agreements, we have begun some reforms, and I'm confident we're going to see the benefits.
What, even under a Labour government?
Well, if the Labour government sticks to the arrangements that we negotiated, which are very good arrangements, then perhaps we will. But unfortunately, I don't think that's what they are going to do. Let's
go back to Mike Galsworthy briefly. This has only been in operation for 4 years because, to be fair, the deal had to be negotiated. So we can't count back 8 years because it wasn't enacted for some time. And actually, we need to give it a chance to work properly.
How long do you want to give it a chance for? Because
how long, David?
Much as though I take what David has said, and I respect his opinion, that he thinks it should be given more time. If you ask the public at large, they think Brexit has been bad already. Lots of people have seen the impacts on their lives. And who says that it has to be longer? So much so I respect David's opinion. He is one person in about 67 million, and we should be listening to everyone, including those people not just sat in the Lords, but actually out there in the chemicals industry, trying to get things to work, who actually want to be more aligned with the EU, because that's what works better for British businesses.
Very final word to David Frost. Thank you, Mike Galsworthy.
It's probably a very minority opinion too, I think, to think that we should be having another referendum anytime soon. I mean,
my tendency would be to think, hasn't the country suffered enough? But let's leave it there. I can imagine that's a debate that's going to keep on running and running, whoever's in government on July the 5th. Thank you very much, David Frost, for joining me. And thank you to Mike Galsworthy, who I hope will not initiate a Twitter pile-on after that very cordial interview.